You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show. The preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. It's Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. The Iron Lady sings that makes it official. Welcome to the big show. We certainly appreciate you guys being here. As always, the Chris Voss Show is the family that loves you, but doesn't judge you, at least not as harsh as the rest of your family does, because they know you better than we do. But we don't loan you money, so stop asking. Anyway, guys, go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss 1 on the TikTokity, and Chris Voss Facebook.com. You can see everything we're doing over there. For 16 years, over 2,200 episodes, we bring you the Chris Voss Show. Some of the most brightest minds on the planet. Of course, none of them are me. That's why we have guests. Anyway, we have an amazing young lady on the show with us today. Sabina Nawaz is on the show with us today. Her newest book comes out March 4th, 2025. It is called You're the Boss. Become the manager you want to be and others need. We're going to get into some of her insights and experience. She is an elite executive coach who advises C-level executives and teams at Fortune 500 corporations, government agencies, nonprofits, and academic institutions around the world. She gives dozens of keynote speakers, seminars, and conferences each year, and teaches faculty at Northeastern and Drexel University. During her 14-year tenure at Microsoft, she went from managing software development teams to leading the company's executive development and succession planning efforts for over 11,000 managers and nearly 1,000 executives, advising Bill Gates and Steve Ballmer directly. There you go. She's written for and been featured in Harvard Business Review, the Wall Street Journal, Forbes, and Fast. I should just say Inc., right? Yeah, Inc. Fast Company, NBC, NASDAQ, and MarketWatch. Welcome to the show, Sabina. How are you?
Thank you, Chris. Doing great.
Thank you. Excited to have you as well. Give us your .coms. Where can people find you on the interwebs?
SabinaNawaz.com. That's SabinaNawaz.com.
There you go. So give us a 30,000 overview of your new book and what's inside.
Great. Chris, as the title and subtitle suggest, this book is for bosses of any kind and anyone who's dealing with power and pressure. The three key headlines in the book are, first, that being promoted can be the riskiest time in your career. And I don't just mean being promoted first into manager, but even to a more senior manager. And this is because while on the one hand, promotions are rewards, they come with a risk. One of the risks is believing that the strengths you've relied on up to this point will continue to help you succeed. And I can talk more about how this myth has scuttled the ambitions of countless brilliant executives, maybe some who are on your show.
Yeah. About 5 of them, I think. No, I'm just kidding.
So
Maybe
yes,
10.
as we go up in seniority, we open up what's called a power gap, which is a difference in power between us and those who report to us. So the things that we see as strengths start to be seen differently. We didn't change, but our position and our circumstances changed, and they start getting viewed differently. So let's say you are direct. Now you can come across as callous. You are calm. Now people will think of you as uninterested or lacking passion. You're strategic. It can be viewed as manipulative. You're disciplined. It becomes rigid. So first point, that being promoted can be the riskiest time in your career.
That's why I'd never get promoted.
Aren't you your own boss?
Well, that's the other reason too. I never get promoted is because I'm already CEO, and there's no upward after CEO here.
And there's a lot of upsides to that. Working for myself, I can say that.
Some
The other
downsides, too.
things at the 30,000-foot view, Chris, are that power doesn't corrupt. It's actually pressure that corrupts in these roles of manager.
Pressure.
That the higher we go, the higher the pressure that we're under. Deadlines, expectations. Before you know it, the qualities that made you a great boss, patience, empathy, clarity, they start to slip.
Is
I
it
know this.
because,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt you, but I want to make this point. Is it because, maybe the better question is why is that? But is it because the demands of your promotion are much harder on you? They're going to change, maybe shape you a little different. Maybe you're going to react differently.
Absolutely. The demands are so high on you.
Mm.
And when you're in that rush, there are so many people I work with who consider themselves extremely empathetic,
Mm.
except when I interview their teams and they go, this person lacks empathy. Why? Because I was in a hurry, because I had so
Ah.
much to do. I figure these are adults, they can put on their big boy, big girl pants and get with it. There's time for empathy and connection later.
Hmm.
But is there?
Hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. So it becomes harder and harder as you go up. And you help in the book us identify some of the things that, ways to identify when you're kind of getting out of touch. One of the problems you can have if you have too many yes men, or if people don't find you approachable, you can kind of get isolated. And if you're isolated with the data and knowledge and resources that you need to analyze your business, you can, presidents see that. They get out of touch in the Oval Office from what's going on maybe on the ground in America. And so it sounds like that's kind of the same sort of thing you're talking about, where you can get really detached from reality, as it were.
Absolutely, Chris. Bing, bing, bing. You just said my third point for me, which is that power. So pressure corrupts, and then the power obscures.
Ah.
In fact, the more you accomplish, the higher you go, the less you know. The less you know about the impact your actions are having on other people, and it
Mm.
has a bigger and bigger sized impact on people.
Oh, wow. So how do you combat this? Because, I have that problem where I have a real leadership, masculine, direct, boom, boom, boom sort of, communication style. And people can find it off-putting. And personally, I don't care. No, I'm just kidding. I care sometimes. Depends on the person. But, I don't want to come across as that type of leader that doesn't care. I want to have some empathy. But, I can't walk around giving hugs to everybody all day long because HR said I can't anymore. That's a joke.
Chris, when I stop laughing, I'll answer your question. But
You're like, this guy would never make it at Microsoft.
well, specifically for what exactly you're describing, Chris, there's a tool in the book called mapping. And mapping is basically providing a map of you. Hey, when I frown when you're speaking, it's because that's my thinking face. So people don't think they're about to get fired. If I don't acknowledge your presence in the elevator and it's before 10 a.m., it's because I'm not mad at you. I'm mad at the sun for rising. I'm not a morning person.
I'm
If you
always
send
mad.
me a really lengthy email, don't expect a response because I have trouble processing the written word. Send me text or break it into three emails. Don't put it all in one, for example. So this mapping can take your coordinates and then translate that to other people of what that looks like. I don't give hugs, but I deeply care about X or Y about you as a human being. Here's how that might show up. Do you like chit chat before talking, or do you like to get straight down to business? Letting people know those things helps them not make up stories, because nature abhors a vacuum. And the stories we make up about people who we report to are often more personal and worse than we think they're going to be.
Yeah, mine are always worse. But then I listen to them and I go, wow, you guys nailed it. I'm always like, you should have used more 4-letter words when you were describing me. That would have been more accurate. So how do we now? The alternative of this is, does it vary per person? Like, I'll give you an example. When I'm dealing with men, we're used to dealing very directly, very succinctly. We can cut it up with each other. Where if I need to break balls, as it were, and get really direct at somebody, like, hey man, quit fucking around, that sort of thing. Which is what I'm telling somebody off camera. Hey, quit fucking around. No, I'm just teasing. Anyway, it's my dog. But, you can be very direct. But with women, you tend to need to soften it up a little bit, right? You can't just be barking at them like you would another man. Is there a difference in and you might want to come across with more empathetic sort of everybody has different. Well, I guess what I'm trying to say is everybody kind of has different ways of receiving communication in certain ways. Like I have one employee that you have to choke to death just to get him to understand anything. He has some problems. Let's put it that way. I'm just teasing. There's nothing like that. So Bob's at the show. So is the audience part of the determination of that? I guess.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I don't know that it's that cut and dry, Chris, according to gender. I
Yeah.
find that I go around when I coach my clients, I interview about 12 of their coworkers about what's it like to work with this person. And and really I cannot tell you the difference by gender. Often the number one complaint about bosses is this person has a hard impact on me.
Mm.
And different people can do it in different ways. So and then how you show up, yes, absolutely, you need to calibrate it based on who you're dealing with. And sometimes this mapping exercise people can do as a team.
Oh, really?
So now we know exactly how each other likes to receive feedback, morning person or not. What are my physical characteristics? How I like to process information. Do I use humor or not? I notice, Chris, you say just kidding a lot of times. Now, if I were working for you and you kept saying just kidding, I'd go, no, you're not really. What else is going on? So
I've thought about choking some employees every now and then. I just don't act on it.
there you go.
Bill Gates does the same thing, doesn't he? I mean, I'm sure he's want to choke out an employee, maybe. I don't know. I'm just teasing. I'm sure he's a nice guy. He reads a lot of books.
He does.
He does. Has he ever said that, though? I mean, you worked with him or Steve Ballmer. Steve Ballmer would be the guy I would expect to choke someone because he's got a lot of energy, you know. You ever seen him? Well, I'm sure you've seen him, right? Yeah. But he's got a lot of energy. He's a good cheerleader.
Energy is great.
Yeah.
It's the question is how is that energy being translated and received on the other side of the power gap?
There you go.
And so another tool that you can use is scaling, which is saying, hey, look, if somebody's super energetic, then everything they say could come across as super important. I mean, already I'm multiplying everything when someone's my boss, right? And increasing it in importance. So if as a boss, you want people to take you seriously and to pay more attention to your highest priority items, then specify using numbers. Hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, this is actually a 2. And on a scale of 1 to 10, this is a 20. So now I know I have more discernment about how to translate that energy that's coming at me.
Ah, there you go. So you get feedback on the thing. I know we've had people on the show that their companies do these executive surveys. So do you recommend those? And is that some of the ways you could talk about and maybe getting feedback? You know, they do like an anonymous survey, like, hey, is your boss an idiot? You know, that sort of thing. And then they sit down with the executives and they go over, here's how people are perceiving you. Is that a good way to maybe figure stuff out?
That's exactly what I do, Chris.
Okay.
And instead of a survey, I do it through live interviews.
Oh, okay.
And that's essentially the backbone of this book is 12,000 pages of verbatim data from over 1,000 interviews.
Wow. Well, there you go. So tell us a little bit about your experience, your journey. What was it like working with Bill Gates and working at Microsoft? And I believe you also work with the other gentleman I referred to. Tell us about how you kind of came up through the system, what influenced you growing up, and got you in the fields you're in and where you're at now.
Wow, Chris, that's a lot of questions packed into one.
Sorry, we threw everything at you there.
No worries. I grew up in India and came to the US as a transfer student in my junior year, my third year of university. And my undergraduate and graduate degrees are in computer science, electronics, and computer systems engineering.
Wow.
I went to Smith College, which is a liberal arts college on the East Coast of the US, and then did my master's at the University of Massachusetts. And from there, Microsoft was my very first job. I sent out 180 job applications, and Microsoft was the first one to interview me, fly me over, and hire me.
That's awesome.
It was great. I honestly, when they asked to fly me over, I had not actually heard of Microsoft. It was a 6,000 person company those days.
Oh wow.
And I thought, well, I haven't been to Seattle ever. It's a free trip to Seattle. Why not? And by my third interview, I was hooked. I really wanted to work there because the passion and the care about the work was really oozing out of the hallways, out of people that I talked to. It was awesome. And so the first 9-ish years, I worked in software development, working on products that you may have heard of, like Windows and Internet Explorer and MSN,
Heard of that, yeah.
and many products that never saw the light of day because they didn't quite succeed. They were ideas, great ideas, not great in reality. But it was great. I managed a lot of teams of different sorts. And then I went on sabbatical. Microsoft offers you an 8-week sabbatical. And this was the first time I actually slowed down probably in my life. And a funny thing happens when you sit on the couch and eat bonbons is
you get fat?
Well, I was young enough that I didn't get fat at that point, at least, thankfully.
I would get fat because I know I tried it.
What else has happened to you as you sat on the couch and ate bonbons?
You know, the usual whatever couch things go on. Mostly it was just eating the bonbons, and then usually I just kind of sat there and ate Cheetos without a shirt on, and that's never a good idea. So
yes, it's the perpetual cycle between the salty and the sweet.
It all gets down in your belly button. It's not good.
So for me, it was also things that started pinging in my head. I started getting these insights because I was sitting there doing nothing, and then suddenly, and I had this sort of realization that it was no longer a matter of if, but when I could become a corporate vice president at Microsoft. And that had been a career ambition of mine. But when that realization came in, it was one of the most anticlimactic moments of my career and my life. Because I thought, if I know the formula of how to get there, why am I wasting my time still chasing it? That's boring. Shoot, what do I do with my life? And that's how I switched careers into HR at Microsoft and ran the company's executive development, succession planning, management development, all of these things, working with Bill and Steve, doing that. And I did that for about 6 years and then left to run my own show.
Oh, wow. There you go. So now you're out advising people. I can see on your website you offer several different services. Tell us about some of the things you do there: speaking, partnerships, book writing, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, so it's a lot of it is one-on-one coaching work. A CEO comes to me and wants to work on a particular leadership challenge that they're facing. It could run a wide range. So we work one-on-one over a period of anywhere from 6 months to 6 years or longer sometimes. And in addition to the one-on-one coaching, I might work with the C team of the CEO. So I just came back from London last night, working with a CEO and their team there around how do we get set up, how do we establish ourselves to fulfill our mission. I also do keynote speeches for conferences and other talks on leadership and workshops on leadership. So it runs the gamut. And then I also write articles on leadership for Harvard Business Review, Wall Street Journal, and so on.
Wow. There you go. So you have lots of fun there. People can reach out to you. Do they reach out on the website? Is there a form they can do, or is time they can schedule a call?
For sure. Yeah, for sure. They can contact me on the website, but also I often find people reach out to me after one of my articles goes live, or they've seen me at a conference. Or I often say things that take conventional sayings and turn them around. And people will often contact me during those times, either to share their disagreement with it, or to say, oh, that really resonated. I've been thinking the same thing myself. Now, how can this help me progress in my journey?
There you go. Well, give us your final thoughts on how people can pick up the book and all that good stuff, and reach out to you, .coms, et cetera, et cetera.
In terms of the book, I would say two things. One, look at the very end. We talked, Chris, about conducting a survey or an interview to get feedback. You can actually fill out the 42 questions there for yourself to get some feedback on yourself, because it's really hard to get feedback, as you said, when you're in those positions of power, because who's going to want to tell somebody who has control of their fate in their hands, hey boss, you suck at this. So do that yourself. And the book has some questions you can do that with. If you don't even go that far, here are 4 questions to think about. One, is anybody ever pushing back or suggesting an alternative to your ideas?
Oh, okay.
2, are people treating you as though you're funnier, smarter, faster than you know you are in reality? 3, are you the only one who's always setting the agenda, coming up with ideas, showing initiative, working late? And 4, you use a lot of yeah buts to justify your actions. So that's just a subset of those questions. Use those to see if you checked yes on all of those, you might pick up the book and understand, how do you reduce those power gaps? How do you mitigate those pressure pitfalls that are showing up there?
I like it. Mitigate those pressure pitfalls, because I'm definitely like, I don't know. Yeah, you can always be a better boss and leader, really, when it comes down to it. Do you like that term, boss over leader or manager? Some people, I don't know. Is boss really something people like?
I think boss and manager work well for me. Leader actually does not.
Okay.
And in fact, you'll find that hopefully I've not used the word leader even once in the book.
Really?
Because to me, leadership is about actions that anybody can take, regardless of what their title is.
That's true.
So if we just call a few people leader, that means everyone else is off the hook.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, we do need more people to lead, like you say. I mean, I'll talk to people and they're like, well, I can't lead. I don't have a management position title. It's like, no, you can lead. Everyone can lead. Parents lead. Exactly. Everybody leads. Yeah.
Exactly.
There you go. Well, it's been wonderful to have you on, Sabina. Give us your .coms as we go out so people can find you on the interwebs.
People can find me on LinkedIn, on sabinanawaz.com, and on Instagram at Sabina Coaching.
There you go. Thank you very much for coming on the show, Sabina. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, and thanks so much for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Foss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Foss, Chris Foss1 on the TikTokity and all those crazy places on the internet. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you next time.